the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Felix Ofosu Kwate, spokesperson to the president at the Krata Eba Bontin, say John Dramani Mahama etimi a suspended Yamami Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono said the Emrano etimi eka in Article 146 no Mino Kase de John Dramani Mahama said wetimi a suspended Chief Justice Nyebekaya petition na John Dramani Mahama said nsa etimi eka no forward petition no edibi ekokoma Council of State and odibi nso ekokoma Chief Justice say on a response emfa emra and Chief Justice nso etimi efale na response and odekokoma John Dramani Mahama na DNT and John Dramani Mahama say ugina so a utimi e suspended Chief Justice na udie yentie na yehu se baabi a ade no ekeka kɔ na busuafo ehu kakra na esano a ye twa to no se anhwe ya adachi bi ebeba be ha oman no because say ye the judiciary ni so eba be politics dia ene na oman no are doomed because the reason why nti ama John Dramani Mahama ni abre ne NDC amanyuko no ani abre no dodo na believe say because Charlotte or say then time I no oye isi no MPP amanyuko no by one eba be yi ni na asia konyo nti one so eye the same thing but ade no ehu or say in accordance with the Article 146 Clause 10 of the Constitution and upon the advice of the Council of State, President Mahama issued a warrant suspending the Chief Justice with immediately effect, pending the outcome of the committee proceedings. Enti Council of States etimi ama John Dramani Mahama advice na efutuo be na Council of State edema John Dramani Mahama wetimi agina so etimi a suspend the Chief Justice but adeɛ baako ewom a ɛha adwene sɛ Council of State ema John Dramani Mahama advice a ɔpa na ɔbɛfa ɔpenso a ɔmfa nti wo de yɛnkɔ na yɛnkɔ nkɔti wabra obi na ɔkyerɛkyerɛ
question you na mebisa question no ne fapem ni agina article 1416 ho any article 296 any article 23 of the Constitution. So share article 14610 now. The can say our president in them say omo establish the Council of State or the Council of State establish a prima facie case now. Our president is some say on the advice of the Council of State, Omube to me a suspended Chief Justice.
Sure.
And these are
sure.
Where the use May,
Yes.
May and so emremuno a discretion.
Yes.
A chese to me swoye, and also to me say onye.
Yes.
Good. Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution so I'm reading the exercise of discretionary power. 296 the exercise of discretionary power. Ekono nyansa bakwa ewumune say will be exercised discretionary power. That discretionary power, no. The who exercise here, it was so exercise, no. A queer sebi, and I said, or said, I also say, Ube acting in a manner that is fair and candid. So what I say, now, send your bear, you know who say, oh, acting in a manner which is fair and candid, no. There must be a regulation. So what I say, in see now, was where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer. There's a NIPA or exercising discretionary power. No? So when you judge and answer on your judicial officer, there shall be published by constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent to the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. The part or your president or a judge.
Dabi.
The president or judicial officer.
Dabi.
Echira will say, Self-Tumina or exercise, there should be a regulation that should guide it. Is there a regulation that is guiding it?
Yeah, but Article 146, this will not be the first time the head of an independent constitutional body be go through. And if former presidents were not minded to put in place our regulations now, why do you blame this one for it?
Former sebi constitution, it doesn't make an exemption. Constitution, say obi a breach constitution, that's will be a challenge here. It doesn't make it right. Say, assume a amasem into bentia basem. There is no immunity for the breach of the constitution. So I say, the constitution is being breached. This suspension, in the absence of a regulation, breaches the constitution. Sabi, see breaching on your it doesn't make it right today. So I say, the suspension of the Chief Justice, right, to begin with, in the absence of a regulation or a law to guide the power of the president to suspend the Chief Justice under Article 296, under Article 14610, is a breach of the Constitution. Secondly, what went into the suspension, right, was it done in a manner which is fair and candid? How are we supposed to know? Because the thing, right, is in camera. It is the more reason why there ought to be a regulation for the performance of that duty. So what I say, the fact that it is in camera, no, it is the more reason why it cannot be done in the absence of a regulation, a published regulation, which informs Ghanaians that this is the procedure by which a Chief Justice may be suspended by the president. These are the grounds upon which he might be suspended. So what I say.
Yeah, but now, 296 lawyer. The exercise of discretionary power generally. When you come to 14610, specifically when it comes to the CJ, actually what should happen in suspending the CJ? And it says the president on the advice of the Council of State may. If the president has gotten the advice from the Council of State, which is a requirement, now the president is minded to want to go ahead with a suspension until especially when it comes to CJ. Yes. Yes.
Does it cease to be the exercise of discretionary power simply because he's receiving advice from the Council of State?
No. But there is an express mention.
This is constitutional interpretation.
Sure.
Okay. 296 right? Does it say subject to 14610?
No.
Does it say that?
No.
Does it? So it doesn't make exclusion for the president's exercise of power under 14610. So what I say. You see, it is talking. The only exception in here is the exercise of discretionary power by the judiciary or by a judge or a judicial officer.
Yes.
So if it was making an exception for the president under 14610, it would have said subject to 14610. Go through the Constitution. You see, constitutional interpretation, there must be harmony among the various parts of the Constitution.
Yes.
So what I say.
Yes.
And so go through the Constitution. Wherever an exception is created, it does so, right? By either stating so expressly or stating subject to. Which means that it would have created an exception under 296. Just because you are receiving the advice of the Council of State doesn't mean that you are exempted, right, from from the exercise of the regulation that guides the exercise of discretionary power under 296. The more reason why you are not even exempted from it. Don't forget that under Article 123 of the Constitution, justice, right, emanates from the people, right, and it is administered for and on behalf of the people by the judiciary. And Chief Justice, she's not there for herself. She's there for the people of Ghana. And so when you are doing a process in camera, then all of a sudden, you say you have suspended their Chief Justice. The Chief Justice is the Chief Justice of the people and not the President. And so he's gotten it wrong. There ought to be a regulation so that the people know ahead of time that this is the circumstance under which our Chief Justice may be suspended under Article 14610. Where is it? Now you have suspended the people's Chief Justice. You have suspended the people's Chief Justice. While the Chief Justice is appointed, approved by Parliament, he is no longer the nominee of the President. He is now the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the people's Chief Justice. Now this whole process, Parliament is even not involved. You and I know that under the Constitution and indeed the Interpretations Act, when power is vested in a person, right, that person has also the power to disappoint. And so it should go through the same process. Now, Parliament is not even part of this process. There is the regulation, the existence of the regulation would have made Parliament part of it indirectly. Now, there is no regulation. You say you have suspended the Chief Justice. It is an unconstitutionality.
Would you... Okay, instead, you made a point earlier. In the case of Loretta Lamte, we know Sh0cks said, she was not suspended. She went through the process while still being chairperson of the commission. Loretta Lamte, she was made to step aside. But you made a point, say, if the constitution is breached, then it doesn't mean it should be breached now. My other question to you, is again, because they share interpretation, the exclusio unius rule in interpretation, you don't think it will find expression in 14610?
No, I don't think so.
The express mention of...
You see, you need to look at the purpose. You need to look at the purpose, right, of 146. The purpose of 146 is to remove a Chief Justice appointed under the Constitution, right, to become the head of the body which is the custodian of justice, which is entrusted to them by the people.
Nsem-Pii.
So they are saying.
Yes.
And you cannot do that with a secret process which doesn't have a clear regulation that regulates it.
No, but you also know, the secrecy of the process, and yet because of weighty and a secret, there have been decisions of the court in Ghana established the fact that going through 146, the process should be in camera. Was say even the petition and the details of the petition should out.
You see, when you address to that, please.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say that is what we are debating. That is what we are debating. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of the appointment and its procedure of a Chief Justice?
Okay.
Is to satisfy a certain philosophy, which is that justice emanates from the people and it is held in trust by the judiciary, right, for and on behalf of the people. And so the appointment procedure or processes, it even involves the people's representative.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You are removing her. You are removing the people's Chief Justice. The minimum level or degree to which the people can get involved is the existence of the regulation.
Yes. Which regulation will spell out process? I was saying,
the circumstance, even the grounds. What I say, because Sebi. Say Chief Justice is free office. No one saw the light as She may be causing financial loss to the state. But would that be sufficient grounds for her removal, right? And also her suspension? Look, let me tell you something. Go to the Constitution. Go to the provisions that govern the appointments of Superior Court judges and even the Chief Justice. Go and see whether, for instance, the qualification, if the Constitution spells out what goes into the qualification. It doesn't say so.
Yes.
The grounds for the removal of the Chief Justice, right, stated misbehavior. What is the offense called stated misbehavior? You and I don't know.
Yes.
You and I don't know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, today, if there is an in-camera procedure to remove our Chief Justice, right? And don't forget, you see, we need to qualify it. The Chief Justice is the people's Chief Justice. It's not the executive Chief Justice.
Yes.
So what I say.
Yes.
So then the executive will be removing the people's Chief Justice, whose appointment they had a say in it. How do the people have a say in the removal? It is through the regulation. It is through the regulation.
Because the regulation will go through Parliament.
It will go through Parliament. Parliament will then approve and say that this is the grounds for removing the Chief Justice. These are the ingredients of the constitutional grounds for removing the Chief Justice. These are the grounds, right, for suspending the Chief Justice. All that will be in there. Today, how do we determine whether or not the suspension is fair and candid? Because the Constitution requires that the exercise of the discretionary power should be fair and candid. How do we determine it? So the suspension is unconstitutional.
Based on the argument you've put forth so far.
Based on the Constitution, not my argument.
No, your argument is based on the Constitution.
Yes, based on the Constitution,
sure,
which requires that the exercise of the discretionary power, right, must be fair and candid, must not be arbitrary and capricious. There must be a published guideline by way of a regulation or law that will govern it. Based on the Constitution, which doesn't create an exception for any other person, apart from the judiciary and the judicial officers, right? Even if we're to take it that the advice of the Council of State qualifies in this regard, what informed the advice of the Council of State? There should be a regulation. There's no exception for the President and the Council of State for the exercise of that discretion. So both of them are exercising a discretion. Look, an advice, it can be accepted or rejected. Two of us.
Yes.
That is even the reason why a regulation is necessary. Because whether or not the advice was accepted or rejected, the Council of State would not even come out to say. Because the Council of State itself, all their proceedings are in camera already. Have you ever witnessed the proceedings of a Council of State before?
No.
So are you telling me that it is right for a Chief Justice whose appointment was transparent in accordance with the Constitution to be suspended in accordance with an opaque process? Is that what you are telling me? And that we don't know what went into the suspension of the Chief Justice? It is purely unconstitutional.
Okay. The bit about getting the regulation in place, it's captured in 296?
Yes, 296.
Okay. That's the regulation to guide the exercise of discretionary power.
Yes, where the authority of authority is not a judge
or a
judicial officer.
Okay.
They shall be published by constitutional instrument or statutory instrument. Constitutional instrument or statutory instrument, regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine.